بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد. I'm on my way to work. As you can see, I'm wearing a shirt and tie. Not something I enjoy, not something I like, and not something that I would do unless I'm really forced to, which I am in this job right here. Do I believe shirt and tie or suit and tie is haram? No, I don't. I believe it's permissible. There is no clear proof at all to say it's haram, and whoever says tashabbuh bil kuffar, this is not a very strong argument, because a suit and tie is not a clothing that has anything to do with kufr. If it's any tashabbuh, it's a tashabbuh of professionalism and conforming to a certain work attire, an international convention of how an employee is supposed to look in a workplace, because a workplace has to keep a certain standard of appearance in order for it not to be transformed into something that it's not supposed to be. It's a very long discussion, but this is what a suit and tie is. It is not a garment that shows or shows an affiliation to any kind of belief system or lifestyle outside of the workplace. The shirt and tie is a workplace lifestyle garment. This is why the hujjah that some, not many, say that it's haram, I find it very weak. However, do I like it? No. But it was a necessity to do a job which I believe is, from a point of halal and other elements, better for me than lots of things out there in the market. And the reality is that in this day and age, you're gonna have to do concessions. That's how it is. I live in Saudi Arabia and I have to do concessions. Most of you are living in the West, you will have to do concessions. And you need to learn what are the concessions that you should be doing and what are the matters that you can never, ever, ever, ever make any concession about. And this is why I've always been advocating that we need Western du'at that are qualified, wise, and understand the dynamics of Western societies and cultures well enough in order to help the Muslims make the least harmful concessions in order to preserve the most important thing of their religion, the most important things of their religion that will enable them, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, to keep their heads out of water. Police passing by. The topic today that I want to talk about is the great words of following the book and the sunnah. Everybody's talking about it, but looking at the reality of the situation, we see that it's pretty poor out there. And I'm gonna give you my very honest and blunt opinion, is that in most cases it is not happening. It is not happening for the overwhelming majority of people. It's happening for a minority from those who Allah had mercy upon and gave them tawfiq in this enormous mess, which is the worldwide dawah context and the Western dawah context in particular. Where are we today? To me, like, the ayah that sums up what is happening is, I believe it's in Surah Fussilat, or is it Zukhruf? وَقَالُوا لَا تَسْمَعُوا لِهَذَا الْقُرْآنِ وَالْغَوْا فِيهِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَغْلِبُونَ. When this whole internet technology made voice spreading through MP3, etc. possible, a lot of people became very optimistic, because for the old timers, the people who are in of my generation and older, you all know how it was back in the days. The tapes, the golden tapes. Every each one of us had a collection of the golden tapes. That was the material that we kept ourselves alive with. We wouldn't get into our car without 1, 2, 3 tapes on stock. All right, in case I gotta do a long journey, I'm gonna put myself on the Iman IV. I'm gonna play that tape, because that tape was packed with good stuff. It was a simple, good lecture filled with ayat of the Book of Allah, basic explanations, ahadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, basic explanations. And subhanallah, du'at in those day and age, there was something in their heart that was reflected in their voice when they were speaking. And it was something incredibly beautiful, profound, and it had a profound effect on us. In those days, we would sit by ourselves, or 2, 3, 4, 5 friends silently around the cassette player and listen to these tapes. And these tapes were a rarity. Not all the tapes, not all the good tapes were available everywhere. When somebody would travel, he'd bring back tapes. I remember my close friend Abdul Malik, Hafidhahullah wa baraka fi wa waffaqahu li kulli khair. I remember the first time he traveled from Belgium to Brixton, he brought back a set of tapes, and I was holding them and going through them with a level of excitement, because it was like gold. It was unavailable in Belgium, and I started copying them and distributing them, because I had a double deck, so I could copy tapes. That was within what I could do with the technology that I had available. So when this technology came out, we all thought, Alhamdulillah, now the spreading of knowledge will be much easier, and a much wider audience would be accessible, and a much wider, like for the da'i, much wider audience is accessible, and for the follower, a much broader spectrum of du'at, rather than just his local du'at, will be available to him to get quality material. Subhanallah, subhanallah, how far are we from this dream? We are now living in a total mess of incomprehensible noise, bombarded to the point that we are mentally affected and impaired by all the noise that is coming from us over the net. Within the da'wah scene only, forget everything that comes along with it. And people, you are at extremely high risk if you don't learn to filter and control these devices and these social media channels. You need to control what's on your channel, on your feed, because if you don't control it, it will control you. It will control you. It is designed to control you. If you just go with the flow, you are lost. I do not exaggerate. And I hope to make a little recording for you about Netflix, and I'll tell you what I believe to be the case on how this whole thing functions. It is not by chance that we have an explosion of all kinds of perversities in our society that happened over the last few years, less than a decade. Europe was already open 25 years ago. Nobody would dare opening their mouth on homosexuals and other. I used to go and pray in the Markaz Islami in Brussels, which was situated. It was built by King Faisal rahimahullah ta'ala, and it was situated in a big park in Brussels. And this particular park happens to be the meeting point for homosexual people. And the way it works is that, you know, after dark, you walk through the park and there's a bunch of guys standing around as if they were waiting for the bus in the middle of the park, and they're eyeing each other up, and they have some kind of code, you know, which they visibly understand each other quite well with, and then they go right there behind the bush. I'm not exaggerating. That's how it works. All right. You might be sitting on a bench, as happened to us, coming out of the masjid one day after Isha in summer. It might have been something like 9:20 p.m. or 9:30 p.m. and we're sitting on a bench right outside of the masjid, and we're chatting. We were three young brothers, and after a few minutes of us chatting, there's a voice from behind us going like saying, "Guys, we're busy here, could you please," and so we kind of froze and we left. That's how it is. So, but in those days, we didn't see what we see today. How do you think that works? I'll tell you about that when we speak about Netflix, if I get around to it, inshallah ta'ala. So, I'm almost arriving at my work. Got cops behind me. I have to be a bit discreet here. Anyway, I'll do another video when I leave work, inshallah. So while we're at the topic of concessions, I'd like to say that for the overwhelming part of du'at from the West, they are giving you the wrong concessions. And the most blatant and painful examples is Umar Sulaiman. It is absolutely shocking how this man built a system of objectives to reach through his da'wah, and what length is he prepared to go in order to reach those objectives. This man has proven time and again that he is the last person in the world you should go to in order to know what concessions you can make in your deen. Because where does he make the concession? Right at the core. Let's make concessions that make us kufr. People, hate haqiqah as much as you want, but take the truth from wherever it came. That video that he showed with this stunt they did at the border for transgender rights. People, we have live ridda on this video. You see that girl in hijab when she went to that Allahu A'lam what female LGBT priest and got a cross done on the forehead. This is kufr, people. You see, that is a matter which is without the shadow of a doubt kufr. And it's not my responsibility nor my right to pass the ruling of ridda on that particular person, but this action is an action of ridda, because the cross on the forehead is a form of seeking barakah and affirming the iman of the cross and everything that comes with it, right, on your forehead. If this is not kufr, what is? And these are the kind of concessions that Umar Sulaiman is leading his followers into. And his followers are outraged at how dare people look at him like that and criticize him and blah, 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 blah. The reason why we criticize him is that this particular story, as well as others, shows that when it comes to priorities, he has got it way wrong. Way wrong. And you being on the spell of such an individual, because of his sweet talk, because of his ability to tell you stories about Sahaba and Sahabiyat and, you know, all this creamy stuff, stories whose authenticity is, you know, not that great, and the benefit of you hearing these stories is also debatable, but it puts you under his spell. And this man very obviously has shown to us that he is not the guy for this amana of showing us how to navigate the Western terrain. That's what we need. We need somebody to show us Westerners how we gonna manage this enormous mess we're in. We're not gonna get out of there unhurt. That's for sure. What we want to get out of there is we want to get out of there alive, with enough iman in our hearts at the moment we pass away that we can still have hope for Allah's mercy. And with these kind of things, doing actions that nullify the foundation of our faith for the sake of transgender immigrant rights, there's a problem here, people. Wallahu a'lam. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik, shahadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. So continuing on this topic of how to navigate the terrain, looking at what's out there, we see that, broadly speaking, we have two categories of people. We have one category under whose influence I was, who close every door. Go study? No, you can't study because you will have this subject and this subject is haram to study. You'll have ikhtilat, you'll have this, you'll have that. Alright, okay, I'll do this kind of job that is basically halal, but something as silly as, I'm not joking, I'm not joking. This exists out there. You'll have to commute with women on the bus. So it's haram. That exists. These people are out there on different levels. And then you have the other extreme. You have, for example, the Ikhwani movement of France, which is obviously its own kind of tabkha. These people
and I saw the video. They make riba for mortgage halal for something as silly as you having to commute for an hour in the morning and in the evening if you're not gonna do riba and buy real estate in that particular area. So in other words, these people have an approach, okay, sticking to Sharia has this slightest inconvenience. No, in that case, it's okay. No problem. And it's like the goal is to make life comfortable. No, people. No. Haya is ibtila. And ibtila is core to attachment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ibtila is what forces us to be sincere. Our concessions that we make in this dunya shows what we are all about. Are you about comfort? Are you about your looks? Are you about your social media profile? Are you about your friends? Or in every choice that you make, till what extent does Allah, His Messenger, and His religion get the lion's share of the trade-offs? The trade-offs are made for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the sake of following His Messenger, the sake of sticking to the rules and regulations of our religion. See, that's what makes us. So when you have a da'i that for any reason or subjectively makes way for you to just go ahead and do whatever, that completely defeats the purpose of why we're here. It will not block you from moving forward, it will block you full stop. Because now instead of moving forward, instead of being on your journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, learning tawakkul, making a concession and going through whatever comes out of that, you should stop. You're gonna be, but if I had done this, it would have been this, it would have been that, so I didn't do it. Okay. And what's gonna happen 30 years down the line? Where are you gonna be? What will you have achieved? Whatever comfort that you will have achieved will be gone. And the progress in your religion will be mediocre at best. So these people who just striving to make way for you, if you want to progress towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if that is your goal in life, you need to distance yourself from these people. And then, as I said, on the other end of the spectrum, you have the people who close every door. They are people who do not understand how do you gauge a real life situation. And this is why we need people who are, number one, knowledgeable about halal and haram. Authentic knowledge from our texts of the book and the sunnah. Number two, people who understand well the qawa'id of fiqh that are used in order to gauge a situation and decide what is a darura from what is not a darura, what is a mafsada rajiha from not a mafsada rajiha, what is a maslaha rajiha from not a maslaha rajiha, who goes as darul mafasid awla min jalb al masalih, and who helps people with tawakkul, who makes the difference between, you are stuck in a situation and you need to get out of that situation. What is going to be from where you are here, how are you going to get out of there with the least harm, versus, look, you're on the trial right now. The question for you is, are you gonna do the right thing for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or are you gonna go with comfort and you're gonna hide behind the people of fatwa, whose way is to just give you what you want to hear? So we'll speak more about what I'm going to talk about now, which is some du'at that I recommend in another video, but I'll mention here the people that I do not recommend. Umar Sulaiman, for reasons that I've said, because Umar Sulaiman, it's beyond giving a permission for haram. It's far beyond that. Umar Sulaiman makes concessions at the most crucial, fundamental, deepest and most important aspects of our religion to reach goals that are not even from our religion. There's something called maqasid al-sharia. What are we aiming for? Why would we make a concession? To reach what? What he's trying to reach is outside of the scope of why we would be making a concession in the first place. And it raises a number of very uncomfortable questions, including about Sheikh Tahir White, who I have defended, and although I'm a nobody, somehow a lot of people around me now think that, you know, defender of Tahir White is my title or my role in life. Tahir White, in this particular case, is somebody who I would trust far more in being able to gauge the situations and make decisions on how to help people navigate the terrain. And talking about more about this in another video, inshallah. The reason why I say that I believe that he is still a person who can do that is because when you look at the content that he produces, it is high quality content. However, when you look at his affiliation with Yaqeen Institute, it raises very uncomfortable questions. So I do the disclaimer, I put out the disclaimer that I put out before, right? لا نزكي على الله أحدا. What we need to attach ourselves to is the book of Allah and the Sunnah of His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not individuals. I do not tell you attach your deen to Tahir White, abadan. But so far, from what I can see, from what he says, he would be a go-to person with caution to help you out in these kind of matters. Another individual is Muhammad Munir. Yes, I have listened to Muhammad Munir far more than I have listened to Tahir White, and Muhammad Munir is somebody that I have seen give fatwa in this very matter that we're talking about right now, and I found his fatwa to be very good. And although I myself would have slight more caution on certain things he said, but his ijtihad, from what I have seen, is good. But again, لا نزكي على الله أحدا. And other than those two, I'm sure there are other people, but those are the two that I have listened to sufficiently for me to be able to say that, yes, those are people to go to. Another person who's a person not to go to is Yasir Qadi. Because Yasir Qadi, he himself has embarked far more subtly than Umar Sulaiman. Umar Sulaiman is very clumsy in what he does, and this is why he exposes himself very quickly. Yasir Qadi is very smart and he's very slick. But Yasir Qadi is working at slowly, just removing tadayyun bit by bit. Matters of aqeedah, in matters of fiqh. No, it's okay to do this, it's okay to do that. This whole thing submerged in a sea of concern, and we have to understand the bigger picture, and we have to And this is the show that he puts on in about every single topic he's talking about. And wallahi, people, ever since when I started doing this refutation I started about him, about the matters of Tawheed, as I was listening to most of his, my opinion about Yasir Qadhi nowadays is that this man is very dubious. Allahu A'lam what's hiding behind him. And if Allah gives me life and energy, I hope to be able to show you certain things that might open your eyes. Wallahu A'lam.